All right, I think we are live. Hello, we got Brittany Olson here. Give me just one moment to get all set up here, and we'll get into talking to everybody. Sorry, I got plugged up ears today for some reason here. Come on. Having a little difficulty getting everything to work just right, but I think we'll get there. Give me just one second. All right, so while I'm setting all this up here, I will just go through the normal disclaimers here. Just say, this is a weekly live broadcast. Welcome to you guys that have been here before. Those of you guys that haven't been here before, thank you for joining us. We appreciate that. This is pretty much just an Ask Me Anything session. I don't plan out a topic for this. I just respond to the live chat that's going on. If you're watching this after the broadcast, after it's live, it will post. And if you're watching it then, you'll see the chat replay in the side. You can kind of keep up with who I'm talking to there. If you leave a comment afterwards, I'll try to get to that. It just takes me a couple of days, but during the live broadcast, I try to respond to every comment that comes through or every chat that comes through in the live broadcast chat itself. And so that's it. I mean, that's pretty much it. No rules. Hang on just one second. Let's see if I'm working. Hello to everybody. Somebody let me know if you guys see me moving. I'm looking at the frozen in the background. I can't tell streaming or not. You're freezing up. Okay, that's what I thought. Give me a guys. See what I can do here. All right, how about now? See if we're working right now. I think it's something about my internet connection. Looks terrible. All right. Okay. I think we're working now. Okay. Sorry about that. Let's get back into it. I got a whole bunch of hellos here. Forgive me if I don't say hello to each one of you guys individually because I got a couple of questions coming in. All right. Or already, I should say. Good evening to everybody. Thank you guys for joining. Let's jump into this real quick. William Safford says, "Hi, Chris. I know you don't want to discuss Corona again, but every school in Maryland is shut down until 3/27. I have weeks of uninterrupted quail rising." Well, I guess it could be worse. I mean, every school's shutting down. I get why they are. I mean, it is a contagious illness. They're worried about it being a pandemic. I personally don't get it. I don't get what the hype is about, what the scare factor is about. The flu, in my opinion, is much worse. We lose, thousands of people die from the flu every year. I don't get why there's no, craze about that, but there is a craze about this. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. We probably don't want to get into all that again, and we'll just we'll have difference of opinions. Somebody will probably get upset about it. I will say I don't care it doesn't bother me if you disagree with me. I think we can disagree on things, still be friends. It's okay. But sometimes I enjoy a good debate, so I can get into it, and I don't realize that I irritate other people. I don't realize that other people sometimes can't handle differences of opinions as well as I don't know that I want to say as well as I can. I don't mean it like that. It's just I don't get upset about that when we have differences of opinions. And anyway, let's get on with the other things here. So Sunny says, "Hi Chris, where can I get a couple of lights like you use? I know you pretty much made them." Well, unfortunately, I haven't been able to bring those to market. I ran a couple of Kickstarters trying to get them funded. I didn't make them myself. I developed the idea. I went to a manufacturer in China. Had them make prototypes for me, tested them out, went back and forth a couple of times with them, got them to where they were actually working pretty well, went to Kickstarter with it, didn't get funded. I don't have the money to be able to put down to make a bulk order with them, to get the lights in, to be able to offer them up for sale for everybody else. So unfortunately, they're just not on the market yet. I wouldn't be surprised if the company themselves, it doesn't come out with them at some point, start marketing them, start selling them. So you might see them available for sale. I don't own a patent on them or anything like that. It was just a matter of couldn't get it to work. Couldn't get the funding to work. I don't have the money to put down on it. So you may see something like that come available. I don't know. I may have missed out on something, but unfortunately, that's just the way it is. All right. Excuse me. All right. William says, "Hello from Alabama. Good to see you, Chris. It's been a busy week and everything is going good with my hatch. Just put in 60 more eggs to hatch." Good. Well, good luck with your hatch. Hopefully it goes well. I know what you mean about a busy week. It's been a busy week here as well. Hopefully things will start calming down here a little bit later. But we've got we don't have any coronavirus here, but the clients are, I work for a call center. If you guys don't know, I'm an account manager for a call center. So yeah, I am the person that probably calls you at dinner time. Actually, I'm not the person. The people that work for me are the people that do that. But my clients are all worried about the coronavirus scare. It's just, I don't get all the hype about it, but it is what it is. So we're dealing with that there too. But anyway, luckily nobody's gotten sick there. I mean, lots of people gotten sick from the flu, but nobody cares about that. They're worried about coronavirus. So that's what's driving all the hype. So anyway, Perfect Weather says, love the channel. Well, thank you so much, Perfect Weather. Appreciate that. Thanks for joining. Let's see. Brittany Olson says, hey, I had to give my rabbits ivermectin for mites. How long after the second dose can I breed her? Thanks. Good question. I honestly don't know if there's a time limit you're supposed to wait before breeding them. I think 30 days would be, if anything, would be plenty sufficient enough to wait. I believe, I may be wrong on this. I'd have to look it up to make sure, but I believe the withdrawal time before you're supposed to eat the meat is 30 days. I don't see why it would be any different for breeding. So, I think that would be just fine. But again, do a search on that because I may not be right on that. I'm going off memory and my head can only hold so much stuff. I'd have to look back at it and, look it up for you and check it out. And I can't do that right now because I'm talking to people in the live broadcast, but check that. Just look it up, do a Google search for it. What's the withdrawal time for eating? And you can follow the same guidelines for breeding. It won't be any different. All right. Finn Drennan says, can't wait for future videos with chickens. Yeah, it won't be long. We'll have some chickens going. Looking good in Canada now. That was from Kathy. Thank you, Kathy. Where are we at here? Working through. Mark thinks it was the coronavirus causing the lag. I think it was my home network. I disconnected from that, so I'm broadcasting over cellular data right now, and surprisingly, it seems to be working a lot better, so who knows. All right, J.R. Bailey, good evening to you. Where are we at here? Todd says, hey, Chris from Crete, Illinois. Hello to you. Heather Stone says, I have a doe who is 15 days bred, and she is nesting already, making a nest. Thoughts? I'm so bad at palpating. I can't tell if it's a kit or a kidney. Don't feel bad about that. It's incredibly hard to palpate rabbits and figure out if they've got kits in there or not. It's something that I've kind of practiced with. I've never gotten really, really good at it myself. I just don't think I have the sensitivity, the sensitivity in my fingers. I don't know what you would call that. I guess that would be what you would call it, to be able to really feel and tell for sure 100%. It's not one of those things like once you feel it, oh yeah, that's it. It's not like that at all. It's very difficult to do. 15 days pregnant and making a nest though, I'd give her a nest box just in case. Could be that your math is wrong. 15 days is a little bit early, but some does like to make their nests early. Mine usually don't do it until the day they're going to have the babies, or maybe the day before. It's pretty quick on, but every rabbit's a little bit different. So I would give her a nest box just to be on the safe side though. All right. J.R. Bailey says, hey, Chris, the deal to it is for us old folks. I'm over 60 and it hits us in a lethal manner. I'm just happy the Lord has protected kids 10 and under. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that, JR. I understand, the fear of getting the coronavirus if you're older, or if you have, some kind of immune problem, or, health problems already. I understand that, but to me, it's the flu's really just as bad, so I don't get the whole world hype about it, everybody freaking out about it, all those things because of that. It just seems like, I get it if you're, if you've got problems already, yeah, you definitely want to make sure you stay healthy and you want to stay away from it. And I do understand that it is more contagious, I think, than the flu is. But still, I don't know that that's reason for mass hysteria. That's just my opinion. All right. Daddy Dangerous says, hi, Chris. Do male rabbits taste differently to female, and what age is best for butchering, etc.? Good question. In general, no, males don't taste any different than females. There may be a slight difference once they hit, about 6 to 7 months old or older, because that's when they hit sexual maturity. So you're going to have, testosterone in the bucks and I guess estrogen in the does, I guess it would be. And that may change the flavor of the meat a little bit. I don't think it's anything I've ever noticed. As far as butchering, what age is best for butchering, it's really best to butcher them younger rather than older. As they get older and they come into sexual maturity, they do tend to get a little bit tougher, and it's just not quite as good. So I think it's better probably, there's a couple of reasons why. It's better usually 8 to 12 weeks, somewhere right around in there The meat is a little bit better at that point. It's not as tough. Tends to be more tender. Also, just from a purely economical standpoint, their fastest growth is to about 8 to 12 weeks, somewhere right around in there. And after that, they really slow down. So you're feeding them a lot more feed for not much gain. Their food conversion is not as good at that point. So it's just going to cost you a lot more money to raise them out past that point. Now, that's not to say that if you have to butcher an older rabbit for whatever reason that you shouldn't eat it. I mean, I don't let it go to waste. Just make it a roaster or something like that, and it'll be fine. It's not that bad. It's just they're better when they're a little bit younger, if that makes sense. So hopefully that answers that question for you. All right, Kurt says, hi, waiting for warm weather to get here. Got to clean up and got a lot of cleaning up to do. I'm getting cabin fever. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's actually been really nice here. But we see this almost every year. It's, early or mid-March, and the days are nice. It got up to 70 degrees today. It was just beautiful. A little windy, but lots of rain coming out. I mean, it feels like spring. It's nice out during the day. It's not getting too cold at night, down to the 50s, maybe the high 40s, something like that. And you're real tempted to think spring is here and go put your stuff out in the garden. But we're still, about a month. Well, what's today, the 12th? A little over a month away from our average last frost date. So it could very easily get a cold front that comes through, snow or any of those kinds of things. So I'll tell you, this is the hardest part of the year, though, just to wait and wait and wait. And, it's like such a beautiful day out. I want to go put plants in the ground, but I know better. I know I shouldn't do it. It's tough, but we'll make it. All right. Billy T says, with the coronavirus pandemic, and if the country is an economic crash or something like that, do you think rabbits will be good for bartering and trading? Well, it could be. It's not going to get to that point, though. I don't know that you really have to worry about that. We've recovered from things. I mean, as a country, as a world population, people in general have, there was the Great Depression, and we're not going to get that bad. There's all kinds of things that have happened, and we always recover from it. It's never quite as bad as what people think it's going to be. So I don't think you have to worry about that. The stock market has dropped. It's going to bounce back. We're going to be fine. It's not really anything to worry about. But, yeah, they could be good for bartering and trading. Definitely. It just depends on who you're bartering and trading with. I mean, I think there's a lot of other things that the majority of people would rather trade or barter for. But, rabbits could be, a good food source to barter and trade with. All right, James Clemens says, good evening, Chris, and good evening to you. Adele says, hi, how are you? And can you say something I'm not going to say because I don't know what that means, and I'm not going to get tricked into that. So Jupiter says, I thought you weren't allowed to have chickens where you live. Well, okay, so good question. Actually, I'm allowed to have chickens. Let's see, how do I clarify this? I'm allowed to have chickens here. There is a city ordinance that tells how many, what kind of size cage space and all that you need. They don't really enforce that as long as there's no complaints. Nobody's coming by and checking on your chickens to make sure they've got the right amount of, space or any of that kind of stuff. I'm not allowed to have roosters in town. That's illegal. My quail don't qualify, but chicken roosters, I'm not allowed. So I could have chickens, and I could have, I can't remember how many. There's a number. It's probably not 2025 what I plan on raising, but I don't think anybody's even going to know. I think I'm going to get away with this. They're only going to be, 8 weeks roughly, and only about 5 weeks out actually in the yard, tractoring them around where anybody could see them. None of my neighbors are going to complain about that. It's not going to draw any attention. I've got a big enough yard that it's not going to be a nuisance to anybody, so it's not going to cause any problems. So as long as I'm not causing a problem, nobody's complaining. There's really very little chance that the city's going to come by and bust me for my chickens. If they do, the worst they're going to do is say, you need to get rid of them. So I don't know if it's actually would be allowed if I went to the city and asked. It's one of those situations where I'm just going to ask for forgiveness rather than permission. We're going to see if I can get away with it. I'm thinking I can. I don't think it's going to be that big of an issue. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I probably got somebody that's going to watch this video and be like, oh, I know where you live. I'm going to call the city and complain on you, and then I'll get in trouble. But if I do, you guys will see it on video. We'll know about it. All right. Alan says, my button quail have stopped laying eggs after the market crashed. Would more like keep them start laying again after the market crashed, huh? Maybe it was the market crash that's made them stop. I mean, they say they stopped laying eggs from any kind of stress factor. If they're watching the market, they may be a little stressed out. Maybe they're worried they won't be able to get any food. You're going to run out of quail food for them or something like that. You might try just talking to them and reassuring them it's all going to be okay, but no, I'm kidding. Yeah, more light almost always helps. 14 hours a day of light is kind of the minimum that you need to keep your birds laying on a regular basis. Any kind of stress factor, though, in all seriousness, will get them to stop laying. So if you recently moved them from one cage to another, they're usually going to stop laying for a couple of weeks before they start up again. If they don't have 14 hours a day of light, they'll stop laying and they'll probably start back up again when the light picks back up. The days are starting to get longer now. Still not up to 14 hours a day though. So, you may have to add some external light if you want to keep them laying on a regular basis. All right. Hopefully that answers that one for you. Mark says, so what kind of drone do you have and what kind of side business do you use it for? Good question, Mark. This is not a normal question we get on this channel, but hey, I say you guys can ask me anything. I have a Phantom 4 drone. It's not a Pro, it's just a Phantom 4 standard, right? Yeah, standard. It's several years old, but I use it mostly for real estate video, filming houses. I'm actually starting up a side business doing real estate photography and videography work and maybe some other things. I'm not sure where that's going to go just yet, so I'm working on that on the side. Just another stream of income to help pay off some of our debt. We've got a lot of medical debt and things like that from my wife's cancer surgeries and all those kinds of things. We're working on getting those debts down. So I'm starting up something on the side to do that and just to hopefully secure our retirement a little bit better. I'm getting a little older. I need to start thinking about those things. So we will see how that goes. All right, Kinfolk Farm of Georgia says, Chris, super cool that you're finally getting meat chickens, one of my favorite things to raise. Well, thank you. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I have not raised chickens since I was a young kid, and at that time I wasn't really raising them myself. I was just kind of helping a little bit with it. I understand the concept. I've raised tons of animals over the years, so it's not that big a deal for me to raise chickens. It'll be an easy thing to do, but I actually haven't had chickens, and I don't think I've processed a chicken, like butchered a chicken, since I was about 12 years old. So it's been a while since I butchered a chicken. We'll see how that goes when it comes time to do that. All right. Jay Gariah says, help, I have bunnies and they had babies, but my wife doesn't like bunnies, and if she finds out, she's going to kill me. How do I hide them from her? She crosses paths with them every day. I don't know that I can help you with that one, man. That's a tricky one. How do you hide them from her? I mean, the good news you have is they don't make a lot of noise. So, as long as she's not going in there and looking at them specifically, you're probably not going to find out. But, I mean, eventually there's going to be a lot of bunnies. I mean, it's going to be a little bit harder to kind of hide them, I would think. But, who knows, man? I don't know that I can give you advice on that. I don't even know that it's a good idea to try to hide that stuff from your wife. I think, when you do get caught, she's going to be extra mad at you because you didn't tell her to begin with. So my advice would be, come clean with it. Hopefully she doesn't just go out and kill him. That would be kind of cruel. But that would be my advice with it. I think honesty is always the best policy. All right. Expedition Midwest says, where do you get your quail feed? What is the price or calcium percentage and protein percentage? I'm driving through Springfield next week and wondering if it's worth the stop having to mix mine right now, 3 different bag. I buy mine from a company called MFA Agri Services in Neosho, Missouri. They have a couple of other, I don't know, they may have one in Springfield, I don't know for sure, but they have their own mill, so they mill their own feed. I get it for about $13.50 a bag, a 50-pound bag. It is a 30% protein, calcium's like 1.752%, something like that. It's within the range. I can't remember exactly what the protein or the calcium level is, but it's within the 1.5 to 2.5 range, somewhere right around in there, which is acceptable for the birds. That's where I buy all my quail feed from. So if you're anywhere near, Springfield's a little ways away. I don't know that it's worth driving all the way to Neosho. Springfield's about a little over an hour drive from Neosho. So it may not be worth driving all the way from Neosho to get to it. But if you happen to be going through, that section of the state, then, you might pick some up. It might work out well for you there. Or you can check MFA Agri Services and see they may have an office in Springfield or a feed store in Springfield. All right, Lodrell says, hello, Chris. Hello, all from Greenville, North Carolina. Hello to you. Thanks for joining. And Popple Backyard Farm says, hi, Chris. We have 66 quail, 4 weeks old. 66, that's quite a few. But 4 weeks old, sounds like they're doing well. Good job on that. All right, J.R. Bailey says about 18,000 Americans a year die from various flus. Coronavirus is much more transmittable than the other flus. Well, it could be. And hey, Shane, good to see you here. Did Mel go to freezer camp? I don't know what we're talking about there. I missed that. All right, and then I've got somebody, who is that, asking me. Adele, I'm not going to say words that you asked me to say. I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that. Heather Stone says, I mean, if you want me to say something to somebody, that's a different thing, but I'm not saying just words that you want me to say. That's just, I'm not going to do it. Heather says, thanks, I did put a box in for her. I saw her stuffing hay in her mouth and immediately gave her a box. Okay, Heather, what were we talking about? I've lost track. I've answered a lot of comments. Oh, I think you were the one that had the rabbit that was, 15 days pregnant, started building started building a nest at 15 days pregnant. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Put a nest in for her. You may have to keep an eye on it, make sure she doesn't, give up on the nest building, start using it like a restroom. You may have to clean it out and give her more straw and do it again, but I think it'll be fine. Hey to you, Boris. Good evening. All right. J.R. Bailey says, try confirming pelvic width on large hook bills, Chris. They can break your fingers. I imagine they could. That seems kind of random to me. But I think you might be saying that in response to where I was talking about trying to palpate rabbits and that I wasn't very good at it. So it takes me a minute sometimes when I get to these comments. There's a little bit of a delay in the video from the time I say something to the time it actually displays in the video. So a lot of the times you guys are responding to what I just said, but to me it was, a minute or two back, and I've already answered another comment or two, so I get lost and like, what are you referring to? I don't know. I have to think back about it. So forgive me if I look a little confused sometimes or something. All right. Tim says, Tim from Wrightsville, Georgia, knew about week. Tim, I'm not sure. Are you saying you're new to the channel? You've been on the channel for about a week? If that's the case, thanks for joining us for a live broadcast. We appreciate that. And Denver says, let's see, I just cooked up some older rabbits, 265 degrees for 3 hours. They were great. Sounds good. 265 sounds a little high. I would have done them, I would think sounds a little low. I would think 350 would be what I would cook them out, but 3 hours at 265, maybe that works out pretty well. All right. Zaboon Bear says, I just got 6 Cornish rock chicks, and I think I messed up. 2 of them are yellow and getting big, and 4 of them are brown and growing slowly. Whoops. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. It may be the breeder you got them from. I mean, if you ordered Cornish cross rock chicks, they should have all been the same, I would think. All right. Jason says, hey, I just got my breeding set of rabbits this week, but the female was aggressive when I tried to breed her and has been eating a ton of feed. Do you think she could be pregnant already? It's possible. It's hard to say. Some rabbits are like that. They're just aggressive all the time, eat a lot of feed. She may be spilling a lot of it too. She may be digging it out of the feeder, and that maybe look like she's eating a lot where she's actually just wasting a lot. She could be pregnant. I've never noticed a big diet change in my rabbits when they get pregnant. It's not noticeably more food anyway, maybe a little bit more. So I don't know if that's a good sign. As far as the aggressive part, who knows? I've got a rabbit that she's not aggressive at all until she has babies in the cage with her, and then she's really super, territorial and aggressive. But even when she's pregnant, it doesn't happen at all. And I've seen rabbits where they're aggressive all the time until they're pregnant, and then they seem to calm down and be mellow. And I've seen rabbits that were the other way around where they were, just friendly as could be. As soon as they got pregnant, they were aggressive. It's you don't know. I mean, it's hard to say unless you know your rabbit and you're more experienced with her for sure if she's pregnant or not, just because of that. Go around. I always tell everybody, wait a couple of weeks before you count her out as not being pregnant, and just go in, once a week or something, take a handful of straw and throw it in the cage. And if she picks it up, starts running around with it hanging out both sides of her mouth, give her a nest box and wait for the babies to be born. If you go 3 weeks or 4 weeks, if you want to be absolutely sure, if you go 30 days doing that once a week and she never picks it up, I mean, she might nibble on it and stuff, but it'll be unmistakable. She'll pick it up, sticking out both sides of her mouth, run around the cage. If she doesn't do that within 30 days, she's probably not pregnant. Probably could go ahead and breed her and not worry about it. If you don't want to wait that long, you can go ahead and try to breed her. But, if you think she's pregnant, maybe best to wait just a little while. All right. Excuse me. Peanut Pepper says, Hello, everyone. Hope everyone is well. I have roosters love the morning crow. Yeah, some people do, but a lot of times people living in the city do not like the morning crow, especially people that may have to work nights, like late nights. They don't like being woke up at 4:30 in the morning by a rooster crowing. So it kind of is one of those things that's frowned upon in the city. Although the neighbor's dog barks all night long, so I don't know how that's much different, but it is. So I gotta respect that. William Safford says. Tractor Supply always messes up the breeds, to Zabun, who was talking about the 6 Cornish cross chicks that he got, but thinks they were messed up. That could be the case too. All right, King Coupade says, hey, Chris, it's really cold and snowy, and we have some Flemish coming, but little did I know we have a surprise litter, and we moved the babies where my new Flemish was going to go. What do I do? I'm not sure. You got some Flemish coming, but you had babies, so you moved the babies to where the Flemish was going to go. If you don't have another cage set up, I mean, maybe you should cancel your order of the Flemish. I don't know. I don't know your setup. I don't know how things are there. I mean, aside from building a new cage or emptying out a cage for that new rabbit, I don't know what else you can do. Sorry, I don't mean to be, I'm not trying to be insensitive or unhelpful. It's hard for me to know for sure. All right, Jupiter says, that's cool. Thanks for clarifying. I believe where I live, there are no chickens allowed in my city limits and no roosters whatsoever in the entire county. Interesting. Now, if I lived outside of city limits, I can do whatever I want within reason. I mean, I can raise whatever I want outside of city limits, but inside of city limits, I'm not allowed to have roosters. Technically, you're not allowed to have goats either, but my neighbor's got 3 of them, has had them for a long time, and they're fine. I actually went, a while back, I went to the city council, well, the health department, the head of the health department, because that's who handles animal control and all that kind of stuff, and proposed new ordinances for, keeping animals and allowing certain animals to be kept in city limits, and changing because their regulations are crazy. I mean, it says like, you're supposed to have, for each rabbit, you're supposed to have, I think it's 30 square feet of cage space for each rabbit. I mean, ridiculous amount of 30 square feet per rabbit. It's crazy. So, and there's it's just some weird stuff in the ordinances. It's clear that somebody wrote those a long time ago. And like I said, nobody's really enforcing them, so it's not that big a deal. But I did go to the health director and tried to get the ordinances changed, but it never made it to the city council up for a vote or anything. I had all this stuff prepared, evidence of why it should be the way I thought it should be, rewrote the ordinance in a way that made sense, that, it was going to be sanitary and clean, all those kinds of things, but it never went anywhere. And I kept calling back and finding it and checking on it. And finally, after like a long time, he told me, well, we haven't got any, what was it? We haven't got any complaints, or not complaints, but like anything from like citizens, like petitions, any of those kinds of things signed. I'm like, I didn't know that was a requirement. I just wanted to bring it before the city council and get them to vote on it. But anyway, I gave up on that because I finally figured out, what, they're not complaining. I mean, they're not, going around and enforcing any of that stuff. So I guess it's not that big a deal. All right. William says, button quails will stop laying if you redecorate the cage. They are fickle. Yeah, I think a lot of quail are like that. They tend to be pretty fickle about that. But that's a good point. All right, Bailey, J.R. Bailey says, to Jason Eidson, says, hey, somebody that small would definitely object to a human getting friendly with her. Yeah, I think that was about the pelvic width on hook bills. King Coop says, we have to get a coop and run inspection and go to class for 6 weeks every Sunday before we can get chickens or backyard chickens, not for farms. Interesting. I don't know where you're at, King Coupade, but I don't know. On one hand, I don't know that, that's a terrible idea. I guess it's a good idea in a way to make sure people are educated. 6 weeks of classes, though, seems a little bit like, long time, and coop and run inspections, depending on how strict they are with that kind of stuff. I don't know. I can see both sides of that, but I just would have preferred people leave me alone unless I'm obviously abusing animals or something like that. There's no reason for him to be here, is my opinion. All right, Dwayne says, hey, Chris, was wondering where you're planning to grow out your meat chickens. I'm going to tractor them around my back lot. I own the 2 lots that are the one right behind my back fenced-in yard and the one right beside it. So I'm not going to I won't go on the other lot because that's right behind my neighbor's house and right next to another neighbor, and that it's just not necessarily the neighborly thing to do. But I've got plenty. I've got a whole lot back there, a whole, you know, basically bigger than about the size of my lot that my house is on, right behind it, that I can use to tractor them around. So that's what I plan on doing. All right, Alan says, I recently gave my button quail popcorn, popped but not salted or anything. They seem to love it, but they did stop laying. Interesting. I'm not sure why they would stop laying for that reason, but I don't know that I'd feed them a lot of that. I'm sure they would like it, but it may not be the best for them. All right, J.R. Bailey says, Chris, have you reconsidered some solar panels to power lighting for the quail? Yeah, well, I have solar panels on the lights the lights that I'm running on there are solar powered. And look at that, Hatch Poultry just threw a $2 super chat at me just to tell everybody hello and said hello to everyone. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. But yeah, no, JR, I do have solar. I mean, they're solar powered lights. That's what I'm using on my quail right now. Again, it's the light that I developed, had somebody in China manufacture for me, but I don't have the money to be able to place a big bulk order and get it out here to try to be able to sell it to you guys to make it available to everybody else. So unfortunately, I just can't do it. But yeah, I do have solar lights on them. They work great. All right, and where we at here? Mark says, that's awesome. I have a Phantom 3 that just collects dust. Yeah, well, I've tried to put mine to work. I've got a little bit of work on it. I've done several real estate videos with it, but that's about it. I fly it every once in a while for fun. With the new remote ID laws that are coming out, I may not be flying the drone much at all. If it goes through the way the FAA is proposing it, it's going to pretty much put an end to any drone flying. So we'll see. All right. Peanut Peppers says, it's like riding a bike. You never forget. I don't know what we're talking about. What's like riding a bike? Is that like, are you talking about when I said I haven't butchered a chicken since I was 12 years old, maybe? Well, yeah, I'm sure I'll be able to get it down. We'll see, though. All right. Rebecca says, just jumped in. Do you know of an egg meat chicken that is quieter than most? I would love to have a rooster also. I don't know of any rooster that's quiet, not chickens. As far as egg and meat chickens, I mean, the chickens themselves aren't terribly loud, as far as I know, but I don't know that I could tell you which ones are the quietest either. I may not be the best source of information for that. We'll find out. I'm going to be raising Cornish cross. That's what I'm raising. They're meat chickens, so they're going to be, roughly probably 8 to 10 weeks old, roughly, by the time they're, butcher size. It'll just be a short time thing. All right. William says, crazy cheap, talking about the quail food, I think. Says, I paid $23 for 50 pounds. Yeah, it's a good deal. It's the cheapest I found. It's actually, 20 miles maybe to get to their feed store. So I make the drive and I buy 4 bags at a time. Peanut Pepper says, roosters are loud and get louder with age, to Rebecca. Yeah, I would agree. They probably are loud. All right, Denver says, I got silver Appleyard ducks. I'm not sure what those are. Silver Appleyard. Is that Appleyard or Appleyard? Appleyard. I don't know. Anyway, so it's got those kinds of ducks last summer, and I couldn't be happier. They lay eggs all winter with no light and are now laying every single day tons of eggs. That's nice to know. I'll have to keep that in mind. I actually thought about doing ducks at one time, and I may still. Who knows? All right. Carrie says, hello from Amarillo, Texas. Well, hello to you. Thanks for joining. Boris says, Chris, depends of Lind you are. Depends of Lind you are. Can be downtown and still able to have any foul unincorporated land. I'm not following all of that, Boris. I think what you're saying, it depends on where you are, maybe where you are. Some people can be downtown and still have any foul, an unincorporated land. Yeah, that does depend a little bit. It's just the way my town's set up, my city. But again, like I said, nobody's enforcing that ordinance. I mean, as long as you don't. Now, if I got a rooster, I guarantee they'd enforce it because somebody would call and be like, look, this guy's got a rooster crowing at 4:30 every morning. And then they'd come over and enforce that regulation. You got to get rid of all this stuff. Can't have it, But other than that, if I tried to run a couple of pigs back there or something, somebody would probably complain about that. But if I'm just doing some meat chickens for 8 weeks, and nobody's going to even notice probably. All right, Dora says, where can I get quails? Well, you can order eggs from Hatch Poultry, who is in here. If you watch any of the most recent videos, there's always a link in there to Hatch Poultry with a discount code, so you can get a discount off your order of quail eggs. So that's the first place I would go. If you're looking for live birds, I would suggest looking, Craigslist or something like that, and try to find somebody locally that has live birds. Quail don't really do that well in shipping, so it's usually best to try to get them locally. All right. JR says, I plan on raising SAs as well. That's the ducks you were talking about. In the 200 duck range for selling eggs and meat. Can you help me with any info and where you got them? This is to Denver. All right. What? I don't know what that means. Saint Fornaris says Stamos' name. I don't know what that means. Okay. Boris says, and small animals outside. Yeah, depending on where you live, you can have that stuff. You're right. All right. Rabbit Homesteading says, how much light do you suggest for them to lay eggs? Mine quit and are freeloading and about ready to eat them. Yeah, 14 hours a day. That's the magic number. 14 hours a day of light will generally keep your birds laying pretty regularly. And that doesn't really matter if they're quail or chickens or any of those things. 14 hours a day of light is what keeps them laying them frequently and the most reliably. How are we doing on time here? Oh, we got about 20 minutes left. All right. Dora says, do you sell fertile quail eggs? I don't personally. I mean, I sell some every great once in a while, but I'm not set up to do large orders, shipping, any of those kinds of things. I'll refer you back to Hatch Poultry. And like I said, watch any of the most recent videos. Look in the description. You can find the link in there. You can get a discount off of your order. All right, Mr. Shack says, hi from London. Hello to you, Mr. Shack. Thanks for joining us. Denver says, I bought hatching eggs off of eBay and I hatched them. Trouble is you don't know how many hens and drakes you're getting. I do have fertile eggs now, but I have not sold any yet. Yeah, and that's probably a good way to do it, actually. But you're right. You don't know if you're getting, duck, drakes or hen. Is a female duck called a hen? I don't think it's called a hen, is it? It's called a. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? Anyway. All right. Keith says 52 quail eggs in lockdown tonight. Well, good luck with your hatch. Hopefully it goes well. SMK says, hatch some James Murray meat makers. I know you hatched some meat makers that were not JM. Did it seem like yours matured a little slower than regular Coternics? No, mine were JM, James Murray bloodlines. And no, they don't seem to mature any slower to me. Maybe just a little bit. JR is correcting me. He says female ducks are called hens. Okay, maybe I was wrong. I thought there was another name. I knew a male duck was a drake. I couldn't remember what a female duck was called. I guess it is a hen. All right. Okay, so JR is talking to Denver Lang. I'll let you guys have that discussion. Tim says, hi, Chris. This is Tim from Wrightsville, Georgia. I'm new to the channel about a week, enjoying videos and information you have. Thanks. Thanks, Tim. I appreciate that. Thanks for, again, I think I said this earlier, but thanks for joining the live broadcast and for watching the channel. I appreciate that. All right, Mr. Shark says, I'm having trouble feeding my quail chicks. They mostly want to eat egg food that I make myself. What do you feed your chicks? Well, I feed them all a game bird starter. It's a crumble feed, kind of like a chicken feed or something like that. But I just feed game bird starter to all my birds from the time they hatch to the time, they get butchered or sent to the freezer or whatever. They all get game bird starter. Jeff says, what kind of chickens are you getting? I think I probably answered that already by now. Cornish cross is what I plan on raising. All right, Saint Fernaris, I think it is, says, I used to raise rabbits, white New Zealand and California for meat. Biggest litter was 13. However, mothers never got to keep more than 10. I think that's pretty common. 13 is a great big litter. It's huge. But when you have big litters like that, it's usually pretty common. They're going to lose a couple of them, 2 or 3. But still, 10 is pretty good. If they raise 10 successfully, that's a pretty good sized litter for them to raise. It says, I live in Southern California, and there was a new Prop 65 passed that made Purina Stratina 30% protein available in our Tractor Supply. So I ordered chicken starter feed at 24% protein. So, well, 24% protein is not bad. I prefer to get my protein levels up a little bit for quail. I assume that's what you're talking about. But 24% protein is going to be okay. If that's what you can get, they'll do fine on that. I like to have something 25% or over. And like I said, I'm using 30% right now. All right, Denver says, I've been buying 18% chicken layer mash from a local feed mill here in Utah. It's like $22 for 100 pounds. That's pretty good. Says that I feed them 2 a day, but don't overfeed. Keep them a bit trim. Good egg production. Yeah, I guess that works. I like a little bit higher protein, and I just feed mine I just feed them all the time. It's free feed, however much they want to eat. I've never noticed them to really overeat or any of that kind of stuff affect their egg laying. But hey, if it's working for you, keep doing it. There's no reason to change. All right. Zabun Bear says, I've tried to find livestock rules for my area and can't find any. And now I'm like, how far can I test the limits? Yeah, you could probably look, if you're in a city, you can look online. Your city government probably has a website, and there's city ordinances there. In the city ordinances, mine's set up to where you can search it. So you can just search it by like chicken and find the keyword chicken, and then you can from there expand that section, and you can read all about their ordinances about keeping different animals and those kinds of things. All right, Saint Fernaris, his question here is, do I need to add anything else to their diet? So we're talking about 24% protein. No, that should be fine. I mean, check the calcium level and make sure it's high enough, 1.5 to 2%. You don't want really much higher than that, but if it's lower than like 1.5% average calcium, you may need to add some like crushed oyster shell on the side or something like that. But 24% protein, that's probably going to be fine. If you can find a game bird starter or a turkey starter, oftentimes is the same. They'll usually have a higher protein level. You might switch over to that at some point, but if you can't find them, what you're feeding them is just fine. You don't need to worry about adding anything new to it. All right. JR says to Mr. Shark, says, cheers. Glad y'all won. I hope you're feeding 24 to 30% protein. Use a blender to break up game bird feed. Perina makes a great one. I never break up my birds get right out of the bag. It's a crumble, game bird starter crumble. I never grind it up or anything like that. They do just fine on it. But if it's great big pieces of it, then yeah, you may need to break it up. All right, Marius says, good morning, Chris from South Africa. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I had to get up because we have load shedding at 3 o'clock. Load shedding. We have to load a shed, maybe? Is that what you're saying? At 3 o'clock, and I need to get started. I need to start the generator because I am on day 8 of my quail. Wow, that is up early for sure. Thanks for spending a little bit of time with us before you go out and start your chores. And I don't know, someday I'd like to visit South Africa and see what it's like. If I do that, I'll have to remember to hit you up and get some pointers on where to go and check things out. All right, Stump Logic says, you're right, it's not something you want to say on camera or off. Okay, good. I've been tricked by that stuff before. I don't just say things when people say, oh, say this. I'm not going to do that. All right, Stephanie says, hi, Chris, our doe kindled Monday. She's normally a very sweet girl, but now she has babies. She's a monster. Will not let you into the cage to check the box. A good mama, I'm sure, very protective. Yeah, my doe's the same way. She's very aggressive once she has babies. And I think she's actually kind of calmed down a little bit. I mean, she's still pretty grumpy, doesn't like me in the cage with them or anything like that. But she's gotten to where she doesn't try to necessarily attack me anymore. She'll sit back in the corner. She'll run for, probably because she's got some ear mites. So I've been chasing her down and catching her and squirting oil in her ear, and she doesn't like that at all. But she's not, there for a while, it was like I'd take gloves out there and I'd stick my hand in there with the glove. I'd just hold the glove, let the glove dangle out like that. And she'd come up and grab the end of that glove and almost jerk it off my hand and stuff. But she got over that. She kind of calmed down a little bit. But yeah, she's a great mom. So I'm sure yours is too. That's why I keep her around. I tolerate it. And the rest of the time, when she doesn't have babies, she's not mean or aggressive or anything like that. So it's not that big of a deal. I missed look at that. I got another $2 super chat. I didn't even notice it. I'm sorry about that. Rabbit Homesteading threw $2 super chat at me and said, thumbs up. We learned so much, slightly redneck. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm sorry it took me so long to respond to you. I didn't notice it for some reason. All right. Charlie says, hello, Chris. I just had my first hatch, 17.5 to 18 days hatched, 10 Hatch 10 on those days. Okay, today, day 20, 4 more. I set 36. I'm happy for my first time. So you got 10, 14 out of 36. Okay, so yeah, not a terrible, I mean, not a great hatch rate, of course, but not at all bad for your first time. My guess is you had 10 of them that hatched on day 17.5 to 18, 4 more on day 20. I would check your incubator temperature. It's probably running just a little bit low. So now don't just go turning it up, just to, make sure you verify. Get a couple of non-digital calibrated, make sure they're calibrated accurate thermometers. Throw them in there after your hatch, not right now. Wait till it's all done. Throw them in there and verify that your thermometer on your incubator is actually reading correct. My guess is it's probably a degree or two too low. So it probably says 100 degrees, but it's actually probably like 98, something like that. That would be my guess. That probably will help with your next hatch. Usually, you're going to see that where the bulk of them hatch on like day 17 to day 18, and then a couple days later, some more will hatch. It could be, the other eggs weren't, fertile or something like that. So again, don't just go making changes to your incubator, but it is a good idea to go ahead and verify and make sure it's right, and see if you can get an even better hatch rate next. That's a pretty good hatch rate for a very first time though. So good job. You did something right, and it'll get better. You're going to do even better on the next one, I'm sure. All right. J.R. Bailey says, I'm right next door to Wyoming. Have never tried growing fodder. Have you ever tried growing fodder? I really want to create my setup using fodder. You can get 4-to-1 protein ratio for use. So I think you're asking him, not me, but no, I don't grow fodder for my animals. It's just it's just that much more, too much work for me. So, I mean, I work a full-time job. I work over 80 hours, well, over 40 hours a week, I should say. I don't work over 80. But I'm going to work in the mornings. I'm coming home in the evenings and, spending time with the family. It's just one more thing I'd have to do to make sure that the rabbits are taken care of. So I just don't do it. Rabbits or the quail for that matter. It's not necessarily that hard to do. It's pretty easy, actually. Pretty simple, I should say. But I don't do it myself. I would suggest look into, let's see, here in Wyoming. So this won't work all year round, but in the summertime, you might look at, who was that I saw? I think it was Jack Spirko from the Survival Podcast. He did a video at one point about, it was him, about his dead simple bucket fodder system, something like that. You can look that up. Pretty stupid easy. You can't go wrong with it. I would look into that and see if you can find it. All right. Dora says, wait. Stump Logic says, how much coop room do you think is best per chicken? Per chicken or per quail? Per chicken, if you're looking at like egg layers on a regular basis, I think like if you're running them in a tractor or something like that, you're going to want to probably give them about 2 square feet per bird at the minimum, I would think. If you've got them in a stationary area where it's just the same ground that they're on all the time, you're not moving it around, I think I would expand that and give them something like at least 10 feet per bird, 10 square feet per bird, or it's going to get just really, really messy in there. But again, I'm not necessarily the chicken expert. Quail, in a raised cage, like off ground where the droppings fall through, 1 square foot per bird is just fine. You can go a little bit denser than that, actually. But again, if you've got them in a ground cage that's stationary, that's not going to be moved around, you want to expand that a little bit. Give them, like 4 square feet or something like that per bird, or it's just going to get really nasty really, really fast. All right. Dora says, how many quails do you have? Right now, I think I've got about, let's see, how many do I have? I don't know, somewhere around 15 or 16. I haven't started breeding again yet for spring. They're just now starting to really lay really good. I kind of gave them a little bit of a break the last month, and they just really started picking back up. So we'll probably start incubating before too long. All right, Rabbit Homesteading says, I think it's 2 less than 6 weeks of classes for my son to drive. That's crazy. I think it 2 less than 6 weeks of classes for my son to drive. That's crazy. Can incubate. Oh, so you're referring to the classes that he has to take to raise chickens. Yes, 6 weeks is a little bit kind of crazy. I think they could condense that down. Or for that matter, take a test. Look, you can train you can teach you can learn everything you want to learn online. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to go to any classes. You can learn it all online. YouTube videos, all those kinds of things, and then go take a test if you need to or something. I don't know. All right. Mr. Shack says, I can only get layers micro pellets for quail, so I mix with seeds and egg food. Okay, well, it makes sense. If that's what you can get, that's what you can get. All right. Yeah, Heather Stone says all you need is about 2,200 square feet of pasture to pasture your Cornish. Your lot will be more than fine. Yeah, my lot will be plenty fine to pasture them on. I've got to build a tractor for them, which I will. I'm only doing like 20, 25 birds, so it's not that many. And they are coming from Hatch Poultry Farms, so got my order in with them. They'll be here, and you guys will see all that when they get here. All right, anyway, Mason's Animal says, I just finished posting my 35th video, and I have only had my channel for 1.5 months. I do videos about my animals and my plants. Awesome, Mason. I think your video was the one that I watched where you were showing off your plants, and I made the comment about moving the lights a little bit closer and moving the humidity dome off. They looked pretty good. Keep up the posting and keep up the plants. Hopefully they do well. All right, Keith says, hello, Hatch. Your eggs went into lockdown tonight. Nice. Good luck with your hatch. King Coupade says, I feed my pigeons and sometimes my quail popcorn kernels. Yeah, I think it's okay to feed them a little bit of that. It shouldn't be like corn's not really that good for anything, so it shouldn't be like a main part of their diet. But, a little bit's fine. All right. All right, where we at here? Denver says, JR, I also have barley from the feed mill as well. I do sprout it to various stages, but not all of the time. My rabbits like it, and so do the ducks and the chickens. Yeah, they'll like it. They'll eat it for sure. It's not a bad idea if you've got it available to you to go ahead and sprout out for them. All right, JR says you really need to check. Oh, he's talking to Mr. Shack. Says you really need to check around at some larger cities in your area for game bird food, and then use a blender to break it up to all the right size. Yeah, you can do that, and it may be worth, like I said, like he says, check around some larger cities. In my case, it's the smaller city that actually has the feed mill with the game bird starter at a good price. But check around in some surrounding communities and see what you can find. It may be worth a little bit of a drive if you can get a better deal on it. Pick up 4 or 5 bags at a time, and just make it worth it. All right. Jim's in Town Gardening says, hi, Chris, finally able to join tonight. Thanks for joining. Appreciate it. All right. SMK says, is that hatch as in Gamecock line? Is that hatch as in, I think maybe you're referring to Hatch Poultry. Maybe. I'm not sure what you're saying there exactly. I lost track. All right. Corey says, how many weeks are you going to go on your meat birds before butchering? Probably, 8 to 12, somewhere right around in there. It just depends a little bit more on their grow out rate than it does their age. But that should be about how long they're going to go. All right. J.R. Bailey says, Muscovy ducks and Ancona ducks are reasonably quiet. Yeah, the thing I think you would have to worry about with Muscovies is don't they roost in trees and things, and be kind of hard to keep them like in your yard, but maybe not. I may be wrong. All right, King Coupade says, Hatch Poultry Farms, do you guys ship quail eggs? They do ship quail eggs. I think he's probably answered that question, so I'll let you guys have that conversation. First name, last name says Corona is coming to get you. Maybe. And Corey's from Vegreville, Alberta. So thanks for joining us. That's another place I'd like to visit someday. All right. There's a little bit of back and forth going. I'm going to skip some of that, guys, just to get to the other comments. We're getting down to 5 minutes being done here. So, all right. Carrie says we have an apple yard hen, and she laid daily and very large eggs. We also have a golden 300 layer and a cayuga. Both lay almost daily and nice size eggs. Duck eggs are great. If you like fried egg sandwiches, man, a fried duck egg sandwich is the best. It's just so much that, the best thing about a fried egg sandwich is the yolk, how it soaks into the bread, and duck egg yolks are so big and so rich. They're so good. That's why I wanted to get ducks, but I don't know if I will or not. All right, GM says, Hatch, I'm excited for these. What are those? Cairo, I think is what they are. Do the males still mature at the same rate? Only growth rate is affected in growth. Also, do you feed 25% until growth completed? Good question. I'm kind of curious about those too. It's a newer breed I'm not really that familiar with. I read about them. There were some things that I thought sound pretty excited about them, and then some things I was like, I don't really know yet. So I'm kind of interested to hear more about them and figure out what they're all about. All right. JR says, I'm back. My kitten walked across my keyboard and refreshed everything. That's one more reason not to have a cat, right? I'm just kidding. Keep your cats if you like them. I love cats. Don't like them in my house. Don't like them living in my house. Bad. But I do like cats. All right. King Bates from Alberta. All right, GM says, Chris, I love the truck bed as a brooder. Love to use and reuse. Yeah, my wife came up with that idea. She's just like, can we use that right there? And I was like, that's genius. Why didn't I think of that? I mean, I spent days trying to figure out where am I going to brood these chickens. I pretty much came down to, I got to clean out the shed. I'll use half the shed. But, that was a great idea. And I don't even think I'm going to put a lid on it. I think what I'm going to do is I'll do video on this, whatever I end up doing. I think I'm probably just going to build the walls up a little higher. They're like 18 inches. I need to get them up to about 2 feet. I think I'm just going to build the walls up a little bit with cardboard. It'll be cheap, free, plenty sturdy enough. There's no reason. I think that's what I'm going to do. We'll see. All right. Corey says, just started a hatchery. Hopefully it goes well. Where are we at here? I've noticed, this is Jesse says, I've noticed my egg turner wasn't turning my quail eggs for probably the first 8 days. I've been hand rolling 4 times a day. Think it's too late for them? No, it's probably going to be fine. And if it's not, there's no way to know for sure. At this point, just keep going. I think they're going to be fine. I wouldn't worry about it too much. JR says, Chris, is the 60% male hatch still accurate? Well, you mean like whenever I hatch birds, do I get 60% males? Boy, it sure seems like it. It seems like you get like 70% males most of the time, honestly. But, who knows? Sometimes I do actually get better ratios. But, boy, it sure seems... I've always got too many roosters, though. No question about it. You always get too many roosters. But that's okay. Denver says, some people call female ducks ducks. Yeah, I imagine that's the case. All right, SMK says, I'm thinking about a week slower. I don't know what that means. All right, Doria says, how do you tell whether a quail is female or male, and how long does it take for a jumbo quail to start laying? Okay, there's a couple of ways you can tell if a quail is male or female. If they're like a jumbo meat maker or a jumbo farrow, or that wild brown color, you can pretty easily tell by, by the time they're about 4 or 5 weeks old, it's really pretty easy at that point. The males will have a red, kind of orange bronze colored, solid colored breast, and the females will have a speckled, it's more like a white with brown kind of speckles on it. That's how you tell the males from the females. Now, if they're not, that same color, they're not like they're a tuxedo or an A&M color or, Italian or something like that, then you have to vent sex them. You have to wait till they're sexually mature and vent sex them, which is a little bit hard to explain on here, but I do have a video. You can search it out called 3 Easy Ways to Sex Quail. I think it's what it's called. And I go through all of it. You can see all of how that goes. Your jumbos should start laying eggs, assuming the conditions are right, 14 hours a day and all that, or have light, all those kinds of things. Probably somewhere between 8 to 12 weeks. There's a little bit of variance there. I would expect them to be a little bit closer to 8 weeks, but it may take as longer as 12 weeks. So hopefully I got that answered for you. Hopefully that helps. Kathy says, what temperature range do you stop your rabbit breeding for the summer? I don't necessarily stop it based on temperature range, but I do kind of stop it based on when it's going to get hot. And really what I think is too hot for rabbits is anything over about 85 degrees. So when we start getting into summertime, usually around May, is when the temperature starts getting up and starts to consistently be around 85 degrees or so. So I try not to have baby rabbits during May, June, July, August, or September. And then I'll go back to breeding the rest of the time. All right. And it depends. Sometimes I'll push that a little bit, get one more breeding out of them. And maybe she's got babies that are just starting to wean off in May, but usually I'm done by then. All right. Mr. Shack says, I'm in London. It's the biggest city, but very difficult to find starter crumb and for quail in the UK. You might look for turkey starter. Again, it's pretty much the same thing. All right. Oh, we're running out of time here, guys. Yeah, somebody's mentioning, as JR says, how about Amazon for game bird feed? Probably going to run into that. That's usually very expensive because of the shipping. So, but you can find it. All right. I think we're running out. Oh my goodness, I got a whole lot of things that I didn't that I didn't get to. I'm sorry guys if I did not get to your so I got to quit looking at these. I got to get off here, go spend some time with the family before nighttime, before it's time to go to bed, get up and do it for one more day before the weekend comes. So thank you guys for joining. Sorry if I did not get to your comment tonight. I do my best to get to them all, but sometimes it just gets away from me. So anyway, God bless each and every one of you. Hopefully we'll see you guys back here again next week. So take care and good night. Maybe good night. I can't.